Hey guys, what's going on? Excoundrel here. The new autochess 2.0 is out. Big changes, UI changes. You guys have seen it in one of my previous videos. Massive synergy changes, and also new compositions because of the new units they introduced. Now, if you like this content, please feel free to subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. Subs help me out massively. I do produce a lot of autochess content, and we're producing a lot because of the new update, because obviously there's a lot of new compositions to talk about. If you don't want to subscribe, or if you are subscribed, a like and a comment really goes a long way. Honestly, they really help the video out. So if you want to leave a comment, tell me what you've been enjoying on the new patch. Tell me if you like the new UI, what are your favorite things about the new update, what are your least favorite things about the new update, and we can talk about those. I'll tell you what my least favorite things are. Some of the new character models, some of the new chess piece models look actually hideous. You know, we did that video about a week ago where we talked about the test server. Well, essentially those models were about correct. They just had some texture updates. I still think a lot of the new chess pieces look really weird. So the reason that we started at round 10 this game is because we just played goblins for the early rounds, and that really wasn't that interesting. We actually had a win streak, so we had a 100% win streak. We ended up losing that. Now, if I had maintained my 100% win streak, I would have leveled up to level 7 on this round. Remember when I talked about in one of my previous games, the leveling strategy that you should employ? Well, that's been working for me. This was my first ranked game of the season, so yeah, I definitely think that employing that leveling strategy, if you haven't seen that video, I'm going to link it in the description below. Very important video that, although it's on the last update, it still talks about the way that you should be leveling, and I think that's something that you should definitely adhere to on the new update. So I ended up losing a lot. The reason I didn't level up early on this round was because I wanted to get to 50 gold, and I was at 50 gold, so I'm just going to use my interest to level up at this point. So I'm going to get to level 7 and yet still maintain 5 gold interest because we're at 50 gold. So that's why I chose to delay my level up by 1 level. However, the most important thing here is that I am level 7 by the wolf round, which means I'm going to beat the wolf round, absolutely guaranteed, and also in general makes me a little bit stronger. I'm losing to this guy with the water spirits because water spirit is damn right broken in the early game, especially if your compositions aren't all cornered. So obviously my composition is not fully cornered at this point in time. So yeah, that's why I suffered there. So the wolf round comes through. Now this is the point where I'm like, okay, well actually there's a Wind Ranger in the shop, and he's going to give me 3 hunters. So 3 hunters is a slight upgrade, I think, over our random Hell Knight. So obviously just going to include that. We box our Skybreaker in at the bottom right corner, and also our Ripper in. They're going to do the majority of the tanking here, and we're going to get through this wolf round with relative ease. Lots of things to talk about with items, by the way. Lots of things to talk about with items, and I will talk about them as I go through them. In terms of hunters, it's still pretty simple. You just want to give your frantic masks to Dwarf Sniper, of course, and you obviously want to then load him with the majority of your damage. There wasn't actually that much change. The only change that you are going to see that makes a sizable difference is that the fact that Orb of Refresh has a new recipe, and it's 2 Magic Crystals, and I think it's, what is that staff called? Mysterio Staff. It's 2 Magic Crystals and a Mysterio Staff, which is like 1 less item, but Mysterio Staff is supposedly a little bit rarer than obviously Ring of Life was. So it's you know, depending at your point in the game, it can be easier or harder to get an Orb of Refresh, but we will talk about the Orb of Refresh when we get there. So I finally get an Argali Knight 2. Argali Knight was actually the replacement to Hell Knight, and what I was thinking was going to be, I think I rolled past an Evil Knight there. I actually rolled past an Evil Knight there, which was very bad. Definitely shouldn't have done that. Good that you can see your mistakes and you go back and look at the game, isn't it? But yeah, so basically, Argali Knight was going to be the 1-2 combo with my Evil Knight to give me 2 knights. That was going to be a semi-front line, and I was going to have an Orb, and I was going to have the God of War as well. Luckily, I end up finding a Soul Reaper, which with the current state of my composition is a better Egersis to add. I'm desperately searching for Umbra. I don't think I rolled past any Umbras, but obviously it's me. I roll past things all the time. Having a look at the items here, I'm just looking at what combines. I was thinking about using the Lucky Coin, but obviously Axe of Fury is still melee only, so I thought obviously because I'm hunters, better to just go for something like the Dragonbone Ballista, which is why I was looking at those swords and whether I was going to take a couple of those broken swords and see what I could do with them. So I level up to level 8 here, which I think is really important. I end up finding the Evil Knight, so that now gives me one of my Egersis, and once I find Umbra, I can actually employ the full 4 Egersis lineup, but unfortunately it's taking a while for me to find Umbra at this point in time, so I just have to work with what I've got, which is just the double Egersis. And as you can see, I'm starting to take the L's pretty significantly here. At this point in the game, we are going into the Lethal Ursa round. We don't need to panic too much. I think that, you know, just a couple of upgrades here and there, and we are going to be pretty strong. Like, if I can find Umbra, or I can get the Storm Shaman or Marine in, you know, we're going to be in a good spot. Now, obviously, looking at the lobby, you might not have been able to see it because I've been obviously dipping very quickly out of the... This is 2 times, of course. I'm dipping very quickly out of the number of the scoreboard. On the scoreboard, you'll notice that there are a significant number of mage players in this lobby. Like, basically just a lot of mage players in this lobby. There's Divinity Mage, there is just normal Mage, there is Dragon Mage. So obviously, for me, I was thinking, okay, like, I need to find a way to counter that. There are 2 ways to counter mages. Well, actually 3 ways, I guess, if you're playing Knights. Knights generally counter mages. But if you're not playing Knights, there are 2 good ways to counter mages. One of which is Marine, and one of which is a Storm Shaman. Now, I actually have really good items to set up for a Storm Shaman if I want one. So I was thinking, actually, Storm Shaman would be a really good addition. It would help me beat mage players. And you can see here that I was like, yeah, right, let's just give Storm Shaman some extra mana generation. Let's also give him some skill damage increase. And that's actually going to help me beat a lot of these mage players that were giving me trouble beforehand. Actually also helped me beat a couple of the Beast Warrior players too, because generally Storm Shaman is just very, very powerful. Like builds generally like to cast abilities, who'd have thought? And Storm Shaman helps you shut that down. And somehow, beyond the normal Excoundrel luck, I'm very close to finding a 2-star Storm Shaman, which if you ever followed me before, you know that I never do. I never find 2-star Storm Shamans. But 2-star Storm Shaman is an absolute necessity for beating mage compositions. The Orb of Refresh as well would give me a massive win condition, would require me, alongside Marine, to absolutely crush most of the mage builds that I'm playing. So the end goal for this comp right now, there you go, there's a 2-star Storm Shaman, we got lucky. The end goal for me right now is like, okay, right, we need to figure out what we're doing, because as you can see, we're still a little bit all over the place. We still have a random God of War 2, we have an Argali Knight there, we don't have a 2-star Wind Ranger, we don't have a 2-star Evil Knight. So we're actually not in the best place ever when it comes to our composition. So what are we aiming for at this point in time? Well, okay, there are a couple of ways to approach this. We obviously want Umbra. I'm actually waiting to replace. I've been waiting to replace Wind Ranger with Umbra this entire time. I decide to level up to level 9. I find the Siren, and this is where my plan changes completely. So it's worth talking about this now. This is where my plan changes completely. Why I changed my plan here is because I thought, actually, if I can find a Tsunami Stalker and Umbra, I basically have... Oh, I found Umbra. Okay, so I actually found Umbra on that last... So I actually now have 5 out of 6 Hunters, which means I am very close to going for 6 Hunter, 4 Egersis, which means we would just then need to sell off the Argali Knight. And then I find the Tsunami Stalker, and I'm like, yeah, okay, forget that I was... 9 out of 10, 10 out of 9 by the way, so I ended up keeping the Argali Knight and taking Umbra off, which obviously is not good because I lose my 4 Egersis, but that's where the plan changed. The plan changed because I found Siren, and I was like, wait a second, if I just find Umbra and then Tsunami Stalker, and I'm level 9, so the chances of finding Tsunami Stalker are pretty high, I actually just have 6 Hunters. And for those of you that know, 6 Hunters is very strong. 6 Hunters is super strong with 4 Egersis especially, and if I can get a stacked Dwarf Sniper in 6 Hunters for Egersis, we're looking at like ridiculous DPS output coming out from him. But actually the DPS is pretty good across the board from all of my Hunters. You can see even my Egersis Ranger is doing some serious work here. I do find 3-star Egersis Ranger, which is a pretty big upgrade. I roll down to 0 because I'm looking for any of the 4 pair upgrades that I've got left going, by the way. Umbra, Siren, Wind Ranger, and also Evil Knight, all of which can upgrade to level 2 if I just find one more of them. But look at the damage output that we're getting now. Like, we are entering insane damage output levels because of this composition. In terms of 3-starring, we're looking to 3-star, obviously, Egersis Ranger, which you just saw there. The only other 3-star that you need to worry about is Dwarf Sniper. If you're very lucky, you can talk about and think about 3-starring UMBRA. But UMBRA is less of a priority than Egersis Ranger and Dwarf Sniper. UMBRA is kind of a tank hunter, because UMBRA gains 100% health when she uses her ability, even though she becomes a little bit weaker to AoE because she generates her little friend things. I don't know what they're called. Her little familiars, that's what they're called. She generates her familiars. So obviously, she's a little bit vulnerable, but she's kind of a tank hunter. So you put her in the front line most of the time. But yeah, we're looking for a 3-star Dwarf Sniper, and then we're just looking to 2-star everything else on the board. It's really only Egersis Ranger and Dwarf Sniper that you need to worry about 3-starring massively. So I immediately pick up a Mysterio Staff, which gives me the Orb of Refresh, and then I also managed to find a skill damage increase for my Storm Shaman. So even outside of mages, my Storm Shaman is doing some incredible work. So we've got a Ghost Blade and another Mysterio Staff here. Mysterio Staff would actually give me Scythe of Vice. However, the Ghost Blade gives me Dragonbone Ballista, and I also get another Frantic Mask for my Dwarf Sniper. So getting him to level 3 would basically make my composition nigh on unkillable. Like, it would be so difficult for anyone to beat me if I find a Dwarf Sniper 3 with the items that I've got. Now, I find a Tsunami Stalker and a Dwarf Sniper, and I'm like, well, okay, this is basically time to roll down. Like, we were one off finding a Dwarf Sniper 3. Obviously, we get it on the next roll, which is amazing. And now we have 5 pairs at round 32 on our bench, by the way. And we are still doing incredibly well. The Storm Shaman is single-handedly carrying us versus a lot of these mage players. And then Dwarf Sniper is cleaning up. I mean, the Storm Shaman is doing more damage than my Dwarf Sniper in these matchups because he's just melting these mage players. So we find a Siren. What I'm doing here is now saving gold because I'm thinking, well, I can go to level 10 and I could get a Warlock in, which would be good. You know, for instance, Dark Spirit would be a good Warlock in because there is one Glacier Knight player in the lobby. You may wonder about my positioning as well. The reason that my Storm Shaman is at the front is because my Storm Shaman needs to generate his mana as quickly as possible versus the mages. Unfortunately, in this instance, versus the warrior player, I ended up getting silenced and then taunted, so my Storm Shaman never cast his ability, and then unfortunately the rest of my front line got wiped out. The problem with this comp is that you kind of need things like 2-star Storm Shaman or 2-star Siren, 2-star Evil Knight. You kind of need those things because you don't really have a front line. This is a very, very weak frontline build. It's all about damage output. The damage output is high. I mean, look at that 10k DPS from from my Dwarf Sniper here. Absolutely ridiculous DPS output, but you do need to be very aware that if you don't kill people quickly or prevent people from killing you, and Storm Shaman is kind of one of those things that prevents people from killing you, you're going to struggle. So at this point in the game, we are just looking to upgrade where we can. Itemization wise, we are just giving flat damage to my my Dwarf Sniper. The reason I am not combining those long swords, so those broken swords, is because it does not stack with Dragonbone Ballista. If I get any more of those damage items, they're going to go into Egersis Ranger. Egersis Ranger is your secondary damage carry next to Dwarf Sniper, but you should always try and stack your Dwarf Sniper first. I also gave him some magic resist, simply because obviously I don't want him getting zapped by a 3-star Flaming Wizard and just dying, so I obviously gave him the magic resist there. So we knock out the warrior player. We do get a bit of extra damage that we're gonna lump on our Egersis Ranger. We give 200% damage, mana increase to my Siren, which is going to be great. She's going to now generate her ultimate really quickly. And actually, I'm looking at the matchup now and saying, well, I'm never actually going to get to level 10 here, so on the next round I'm just going to roll down and see what I find. I'm almost certain that I've won this regardless of what happens, and we finally find 2-star Umbra and 2-star Tsunami Stalker at the end. I move my positioning over ever so slightly to just put Storm Shaman a little bit further over to the left so that he doesn't potentially get silenced, and yeah, very, very easily done. We end up cleaning up really nicely and win the game with a super, super strong, super, super awesome first rank game of the season with 6 Hunter, 4 Egersis, with a Storm Shaman and Marine lineup to beat mages. I love this comp. I'll be trying to play it as much as I can. I think Umbra makes Hunters so interesting. So yeah, definitely consider checking that composition out because it's great.